NFL this weekend. They didn't even have him on his board, on their board. They took him off, and they took him off because the owner said take him off. I don't want that guy. I don't want this entitled person on our team.
So now Tom Brady's getting dragged into the chaos surrounding Shedeur Sanders' NFL draft drama. And folks are coming hard for him. Fans are blasting Tom for not stepping up when Shedeur needed him most.
A lot of this was because of Deion Sanders. I think a lot of this was about a message to his father. A lot of this was about, hey, you'll never run this. This is us. We ain't even hire you as a coach in the National Football League. What makes you think you'll have that kind of say?
Tom Brady sabotage Shedeur because he's plotting one last comeback? It's not as crazy as you might think. Mark Davis wanted Tom Brady to be a part owner so bad, he basically gave him 5% of the Raiders for hundreds of millions less than it was worth.
But Tom's clapping back, saying his hands were tied. And here's the kicker. He claims the NFL straight up blackballed Shedeur and his brothers. Tom's been known as Deion's right-hand man when it comes to mentoring Shedeur. So people expected him to make calls, pull strings, knock on doors, whatever it took to get Shedeur into the league earlier.
In the car and more time in the film room.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that.
I seen you have one too, Tom. Don't think I seen.
I was just a rental. Hey, I had a few bucks in my pocket at that point. I see some car stories when we're together.
With Tom, did it come about through your dad or something else?
Well, far back, I'll say a couple years ago, he extended his hand. He was like, come work out with me in Tampa. We flew down there, Dad came, and we rode with him. He took me in his truck to this field, to his high school field. Then from then on, he was just telling me knowledge, and I filmed everything, I recorded everything. So now, even sometimes I go back and just listen to the things that he said at that time, and it registers. You know, everything that he said back then registers now, and it applies. So that's why I'm thankful for him.
But when draft day came and went and Shedeur got snubbed, all eyes turned to Tom like, where were you, bro? Now Tom says he tried, but the league's already iced out Deion's sons, Shedeur and Shiloh, on purpose. Why? According to some insiders, it's a straight-up power move, a message from the NFL trying to put them in their place and make an example out of Deion's boys. But here's the question. What did Deion do that got his sons caught in the crossfire? Something's not adding up. And now, the streets are talking, and Tom's name is getting torched. The one turning up the heat the most? Skip Bayless. He's been throwing major shade on Twitter, accusing Tom of straight-up sabotaging Shedeur's draft chances. Skip tweeted, "It is now pretty clear Tom Brady, who mentored Shedeur, told the Raiders not to take him, duly noted, and that's not all, he kept going." In another tweet, he fired, "How could Tom Brady's team pass on Shedeur again and again and again?"
Question before I go, Tom, do you think a college kid needs a Phantom, like a Rolls Royce?
Nah, hey, no, it's not a Phantom. It's a Rolls Royce cousin.
I think he needs to get his ass in the film room and spend as much time in there as possible.
Thank you,
less
Tom.
time in the car and more time in the film room.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that.
I seen you have one too, Tom. Don't think I seen.
I was just a rental. Hey, I had a few bucks in my pocket at that point. I see some car stories when we're together.
It's messy because guess what? Tom Brady has a chunk of ownership in the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, that team. So fans figured Shedeur was a lock for the Raiders, one of the flashiest franchises in the game. But nope, didn't happen. And now, people are raising eyebrows like, did Tom block the move on purpose? Here's where it gets even wilder. Tom's been mentoring Shedeur for nearly 5 years. They've trained together, spent time on the field, and in interviews, Tom's had nothing but good things to say. He's praised Shedeur's skills, called him focused, and told him to keep grinding. So, was Tom all talk? Or is there a bigger game being played behind the scenes? You'd think Tom Brady would have pulled every string to make sure his mentee Shedeur Sanders got drafted early and sent to a top-tier squad. I mean, Tom knows the pain. He was picked 199th in the 6th round back in 2000. And even though he became the GOAT, he should understand what it feels like to get passed over time after time, especially when you got talent dripping off you. But here's where it flips. Word on the street is that Tom couldn't help Shedeur even if he wanted to. Why? Because some real powerful NFL insiders were moving in silence, plotting to shut down Shedeur and the rest of the Sanders boys. According to multiple reports, top decision-makers were out here pulling strings behind the scenes, not just to delay Shedeur's draft, but to humiliate him. These power players allegedly made sure Shedeur wouldn't be a day 1 pick, or even a day 2 pick. They didn't just want him low on the list. They wanted him off the board entirely for most teams.
I've been covering sports for 30 years plus. I have never seen a projected first-round pick drop like this. 5 quarterbacks, as of the time of taping this show, have been picked. There was speculation he was going to be number 1.
Right.
Now, ultimately, Cam Ward, it was always him or Cam Ward. But how the hell you go from speculating about him or Cam Ward to Jackson Dart and...
When the 2025 draft season kicked off, people were expecting Shedeur to go high, maybe first round, or at worst early third round. But what actually happened? He got picked in round 5, 144th overall. That's straight disrespect. And fans, they were stunned. Calling it shocking doesn't even come close. People started whispering. Something shady was going on behind closed doors. And turns out they weren't wrong. 'Cause let's be clear, Shedeur ain't some random quarterback trying to sneak his way into the league.
Clearly, it's not about talent anymore, Colin Kaepernick.
He's football royalty. His dad, Deion Sanders, is a straight-up legend, not just a Hall of Famer. Deion changed the entire vibe of the game. He brought flash, flair, and a kind of swag that had folks either worshiping him or wishing he'd vanish. Deion never just showed up to do a job. He showed up to dominate and make sure everybody knew he was in the building. So now the big question is, are they punishing Shedeur for his dad's legacy? Or is the league just not ready for another Sanders to shake things up? Deion Sanders didn't just play the game, he owned it. He'd straight up showboat in front of the other team, letting them know they weren't on his level. And the wild part? He wasn't bluffing. Deion talked that big talk and backed every single word of it on the field. Even now, folks still can't stop talking about how freakishly athletic he was. The man was a machine. Fast, flashy, fearless. With that kind of legacy, you'd think his son, Shedeur, would have been locked in as a top 3-round pick. No questions asked. But nope, even the President of the United States was confused. The man literally said, "What is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid?" He called Deion one of the greatest college football players ever, and even better in the NFL. Then he doubled down, saying Deion's a sharp, street-smart coach, and that Shedeur's got superstar genes. His exact words? He should be picked immediately by a team that wants to win. But that didn't happen. Not even close. And everybody was scratching their heads. So why the holdup? Why the cold shoulder? According to insiders, the league's decision makers weren't just sleeping on Shedeur. They were teaching him and his whole family a lesson. That's right. Word is, this wasn't just about Shedeur's stats. It was about putting Deion, Shedeur, and Shiloh in check. Like they were getting too loud, too confident, and the league didn't like that. But here's where it gets real uncomfortable. People online started asking, who's really to blame for all this? Is it Deion's energy, Shedeur's confidence, or is Tom Brady low-key involved too?
How the NFL views you and values you, they will humble every player. And so I think for the Sanders camp, they had this perception of Shedeur as a lock top 2 or 3 draft pick, and they approached the process that way. And there was never anyone from the outside who could get through to them and say, wait a second, he's not guaranteed to be a top 2 or 3 draft pick. And the fact that you are approaching this process that way is hurting him. You know, there's this almost folk story about Deion. The New York Giants asked him to take the Wonderlic during his pre-draft process, and he raised his hand and said, "What pick do you have?" And they answered, and he said, "I'll be gone by then," and he got up and left. Now, I don't know if that story's true or not, but it's been around as long as I've been alive, right? And it almost felt like they were handling the process that same way of saying, okay, well, we're not gonna give our all to teams drafting late in the first round because we're not gonna be there. And it felt more like they were saying, why should we want you? Why should Shedeur Sanders want the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns or the Pittsburgh Steelers? Instead of what every other prospect does is they go into those interviews and say, here's why you should want me. You're selling yourself. It's a job interview. And they really didn't approach it that way. And I think, I don't know that it was personal from the NFL. I think people were just turned off by how they handled the process. And then you have to go through the conversation of how much attention are you willing for a backup quarterback to have in your building? Because once you get past the starter portion of the draft, you're a backup. Once we got there, it becomes the conversation of, okay, do we want all this attention around a quarterback that might be our third guy? And at Cleveland, he might be the fourth guy. And so I think once the slide started, it was hard to stop because of that.
And here comes the theory that's got folks fired up. Some believe Shedeur and his brothers don't fit the NFL's preferred narrative when it comes to black athletes. You know the kind. The league loves a came up from the struggle backstory. They eat that up. Mom was battling addiction. Dad was locked up, raised in the roughest part of town. That stuff gets hyped like it's part of the draft requirements. But Shedeur? Nah. He grew up with two loving, successful parents. His dad's a legend, his mom's got his back, and he's never had to crawl out of some gutter. And that's the problem. It's almost like the league doesn't know what to do when a black player comes from stability and success. Like they expect pain before greatness. And when they don't see that pain, they act like something's missing. And that's exactly who the Sanders brothers are. They didn't come up struggling on the block or chasing meals. They had a soft landing, no doubt, thanks to Deion Sanders' generational wealth and two parents who've been solid and supportive from day one. You see Deion hugging his sons, coaching them, pushing them to be their best, and all of it right out in the open. But here's what really bugs folks. Despite their so-called privilege,
where do you think you'll get drafted if you ran this year's draft?
I'm biased because I don't see a quarterback better than me. Okay. I don't see a quarterback that went through as much adversity as me, that done had 4 different OCs in 4 years. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like coming from an HBCU, coming to a Power 5, having real pressure on them. Right. A lot of people don't understand it's a lot more adversity than you think, just even being the son of Deion Sanders.
Mindset when you play corner compared to playing quarterback. You can't act like a cornerback when you're playing quarterback. Quarterback's a humble position. Mm-hmm. You got to be respectful. You got to be a leader. You're the face of the franchise. There's so much more responsibility that comes along with it. That's what he has to understand.
The Sanders boys can actually play. They ain't just legacy kids. They inherited real athletic skill from their pops. Like Trump once said, that kind of talent's in the DNA. You can bank on it. But apparently, none of that matters, because Shedeur and his brothers aren't hopping on interviews with stories about growing up in chaos or needing the NFL to save their mama from the projects. And here's the truth. Whether or not they got drafted, Shedeur and Shiloh would have been fine. Yeah, missing out on early draft rounds stings, but they're still financially set. Still, word on the street is the NFL execs hated that. These brothers didn't need the league, and that's where the beef started. But it didn't stop there. Things got worse. Multiple insiders say Shedeur straight up fumbled his pre-draft interviews, and it might have cost him everything. Reports say he skipped a bunch of interviews during draft season, claiming injury, but then others say he ghosted meetings with no warning at all. And when he did show up, he came off cold, cocky, and didn't seem to care. One anonymous NFL assistant coach didn't hold back. He said that his interview with Shedeur was the worst he's ever sat through. According to him, Shedeur came off as entitled.
Do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
Top 4.
Ooh, that's pretty beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speaking
1.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. Now, all this is subjective because I know where I kind of want them to go. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget Shiloh, okay? Mm-hmm. But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's gonna be it's gonna be an Eli.
Held the ball too long, had weak body language, blamed his teammates, and just didn't impress. He even said, he's not that good. And that wasn't the only coach with complaints. Multiple reports backed it up. Shedeur's whole interview season was a mess. And here's why that's a huge deal. These interviews ain't just small talk. This is where teams test if a player can handle the spotlight, follow orders, and not blow up in front of the media. No team wants a guy who might turn into a problem off the field. They want someone they can shape, control, and count on to keep it clean when the cameras start rolling. According to inside reports, a lot of NFL execs just don't see Shedeur Sanders fitting the league's ideal image. But that's not even the biggest issue. What really has them heated? They think Shedeur's got too much pride and needs to humble himself if he wants a long career in the league. In one interview, Shedeur called himself a legend. Yup, not future legend, not soon-to-be legend. Just straight-up legend. Then there was that viral moment where he flexed a $350,000 watch in his opponent's face before a game. That kind of stunt didn't sit right with a lot of old-school NFL types who expect players to be seen and not heard. But it didn't stop there. The league also didn't like that Shedeur sat out drills at the NFL Scouting Combine. That's considered a silent no-no. Like, if you accept the invite, you're supposed to show up and show out. ESPN NFL draft analyst Matt Miller even said Shedeur's entire pre-draft performance was full of missteps. According to him, Shedeur's camp got too comfortable and thought his draft spot was guaranteed. Then there's the team interview drama. Shedeur reportedly only agreed to interview with the top 7 NFL teams. Just 7. That move rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. One league source said Shedeur flipped the script and started questioning the teams, asking them what they would do to support him. He wasn't just answering questions, he was flipping the interview on them like he was the GM. And while that kind of move might fly if you're a locked-in top 3 pick, Shedeur didn't have that luxury. Plenty of high picks get picky. Some only interview with 3 teams and nobody bats an eye. But when he did it, he got labeled arrogant, difficult, and out of touch. Even after Shedeur finally got picked up by the Cleveland Browns, the heat didn't die down. It got worse. NFL celebs started chiming in too. One of the loudest voices? Hall of Famer Warren Moon. He went on the Up and Adams podcast and didn't hold back. Warren called out Shedeur's ego, told him to get off his high horse, and lose the chip on his shoulder. He even gave a warning. Being a quarterback ain't like being a cornerback. Basically, when you're the face of the team, the pressure hits different, and the NFL's watching every move. They said Shedeur needed to be humble. Because when you're the quarterback, you're not just another player, you're the face of the franchise. So, yeah, you gotta lead, you gotta show respect, and play the political game, whether you like it or not. Now, to be fair, Warren Moon's comments weren't all negative. He actually meant well. But the way he kept hammering that be humble message, it felt more like a warning than advice. And fans picked up on it quick. A lot of people saw it as yet another veiled attack on Shedeur's confidence. But the real chaos hit when Deion Sanders himself dropped a bomb in an interview. He said that if certain teams tried to draft Shedeur, he wouldn't recommend his son go with them. That right there, boom! That set the league on fire. NFL insiders said execs took that as a direct insult. Like Deion was basically saying some teams weren't even good enough for his son. And let's be real, he's not the first dad to step in like that. Peyton Manning's family moved mountains during draft season, and no one batted an eye. So why is it different when Deion does it? Why the double standard? Some people think it's personal, that Deion's got old enemies in the league still bitter from his player days. Others say the league never liked his swagger, his confidence, or the fact he refused to tone it down. Either way, the results speak for themselves. Both of his sons got blackballed, no question. Let's not forget, Shedeur was the hottest quarterback in college football. His name was everywhere leading into the draft. But the moment the draft came, silence. Suddenly he dropped. Come on, that don't happen unless there's politics in play. The dude had no off-field issues, nothing wild in his background. He was supposed to go top pick, but they let personal bias cloud the business. That's foul. And then there's Tom Brady. A lot of folks been side-eyeing him for not stepping in. But here's an unpopular opinion. Maybe it's good Tom stayed out of it. Because if Shedeur had ended up on the Raiders, people would have just said he got there through Tom's pull and not his own grind. At least now, no one can question whether he earned it, because he had to fight through the storm alone. But what do you think? Was Shedeur really blackballed? Did the NFL do him dirty? And should Tom Brady have stepped in? Or was he right to stay out of it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.